Hello and welcome to another episode of the Imperfect Image podcast. I started with no intro music on this one for a couple of reasons. One, I've been looking up copyright laws on music in podcasts, and it seems as though I may have to just make my own music. That's why I was playing around with the buzz and such the last few times. I was curious if I was going to get sued at any point, but you'd also probably need like more than 10 listeners before you get sued. And the second reason was this is going to be a bit more of a somber podcast, I think. Not quite, well, I'm not going to say that, but potentially not quite like one notorious episode earlier in our series, but somewhat. Maybe we'll have a couple of laughs through the whole thing. This one started out because Anthony Bourdain, a celebrity chef, as well as Kate Spade, who, from what I understand, was a fashion designer, both committed suicide this week, which I don't spend a lot of time talking about celebrities and their happenings, but this Anthony Bourdain one hit me pretty hard, actually, which was somewhat surprising. I didn't think I enjoyed his shows that much. I've seen Parts Unknown. That's about it. Maybe on a couple of MasterChef episodes or something like that. But I think it was that he's another one of these guys that was seemingly funny, successful, and we always look at those people and we just assume that they have everything going for themselves, and how could this ever happen? I think Ashley and I have talked about... Oh, pause. Ashley's on vacation, so I'm recording by myself. Ashley and I had talked about some of the celebrities that have passed away that meant something to us, and she mentioned someone like Robin Williams, and that's another perfect example of, how could someone so hilarious and successful and approachable, maybe is a good word. How could someone like that be so messed up inside themselves that they would actually end their lives? And that's where this whole episode stemmed from. If you can't tell, I'm gonna just fight back tears this whole time. But I did bring Kleenex. Actually, I brought 3 things. I got my phone, just in case I need to look something up. I got, what did I get today? Oak Heart, which is my favorite spiced rum, and Coke Zero. So this episode brought to you by Oak Heart and Coke Zero. And then you get Kleenex, because, just because. Now, I'm a man, and men don't cry. Men just sweat out of their eyes because we have so much muscle mass. But who knows? Maybe I'll start sweating at some point. So what I wanted to go on here is that, being successful or funny or seemingly great on the outside is not what mental health is about. It's funny, a lot of these things happen at interesting times where you get news like this, and then even just earlier this week, I heard Howie Mandel, who a lot of you know from, being bald, but he was on, what's that thing called? Let's Make a Deal? Is that the one? It was the one with the suitcases and people were trying to make a deal to get $1 million or something of the sort. But he was a stand-up comedian first, so coming from that comedy background, he was saying that everyone just kind of assumes that everything's cool with him, right? You're a funny guy. Everything must be good. But he spoke on this podcast very deeply about mental health. Biggest thing being, just go talk to somebody. And that could be anything. Sometimes talking is the way to go, but sometimes listening is the way to go. So first recommendation I would have, one of my clients is a psychiatrist. His name's Dr. Bob Acton. Dr. Bob Acton. He runs a podcast called how to conquer stress, anxiety, and depression. And I highly suggest, even if you're not perceiving that you're having any issues, that would be a great thing to just add to your week. It's very quick, 15, 20-minute episodes. Sometimes there's a guest, sometimes there's an interview. You never know who you might find on there. Me. But it's just a cool, simple thing. You just listen and you go, hey, does that apply to me? And if it doesn't, that's fine. But if it does, sometimes those things can really hit home. I love hearing people talk about this stuff. I like when my clients talk about it, when they talk about their stress and they talk about their kids, or they talk about how they're not achieving their goals, or work is hard, whatever it might be, relationships, anything like that. It's very heartwarming for me that people will open up and share with me, and that, when I do give them advice, they listen somewhat. And even if they don't listen, there's a back and forth between us. It means a lot to me. I hope it means a lot to them. A few people have said that it means a lot to them. This whole, personal fitness training thing, it's not just about getting huge or looking great or anything like that. It's about helping that person internally, in a lot of cases, so they can get huge or look better or whatever it might be. But in some cases, it's not about that. It's just about being a better them. Even if they come to me with certain goals, a lot of the time we find out that it's just about being a better person in general, being happier with themselves. Now, this is the worst time possible, but I'm going to shamelessly plug a new podcast that I've started, a professional podcast that I've started, where I don't drink during it. Maybe I drink before it, maybe I drink after it. That's the magic of show business. You'll never know. But it's called Real Fitness for Real People. And I would love for people to listen to that, because my take on the fitness industry is quite different than a lot of people. I'm not focused on, fancy diets and really cool techniques of adding different exercises together to get crazy results. I'm just really about making people happy. So just think about that. Anyways, tangent, sorry. Howie Mandel, just mentioned briefly on this podcast, but I wish he had spent a little bit more time. He was one of the driving forces, if not the driving force, behind this Bell Let's Talk Day. So that's where Bell Mobility sponsors something. I don't know. There's money given for text messages that day, something of the sort. Anyways, the idea is to just reach out and talk to people. And if you're feeling great, awesome. And if you're not feeling great, maybe you can reach out to someone and you can say, hey, I really don't fucking feel good. And if you don't fucking feel good, that's fucking fine. You don't fucking have to feel fucking good all the fucking time. We all have our stressors. That's just the way it is. But it has to be mentioned at some point. You can't keep these things internal. It doesn't work. I know people who do that, and I promise you, it does not work. It leads to more and more and more issues. My personal opinion is that human beings, we've developed this complex language that we use, multiple languages that we use, just so that we can relate to each other better. And in relating to each other, we're sharing our own experiences. It sounds like a fucking podcast. I'm sharing my experiences with you, and Ashley and I are sharing those experiences with you. In a lot of cases, to make you laugh. But in some cases, not at all to make you laugh, because it's not always about fucking laughing. Another thing was Howie Mandel shared a very, very important anecdote where he was on the Howard Stern show. And he was sitting there and he watched, I think I'm putting this story together properly, but he was watching the gentleman who does that puppetry of the penis. So he whips out his wang and starts making different shapes. He makes a wristwatch, he makes a burger, he makes all these different delicious items. And then when he's finished, when that segment's finished, walks out of the room, but reaches for the door handle without cleaning his hands, opens it, and walks out. Door closes behind him. Now, Howie Mandel is notoriously a germaphobe and OCD. So when he sees this, apparently for the rest of the interview, all he can think about is, oh, for fuck's sakes, I have to leave this room, and I'm going to have to figure out how to not touch that handle. So on his way out, he's trying to use his shirt, and then he's asking for a tissue and all this, and Howard Stern, being who Howard Stern is, just takes it as a bit and won't let Howie leave unless he touches the door handle. And then finally, after a while, Howie Mandel says, I have a mental issue. I have OCD. I have a germophobic condition, or however you would put that. And finally, Howard Stern lets him out. But as Howie's leaving, keep in mind, this is before mental health was really something that people would talk about. As Howie's leaving, he thinks, my career's fucking over, right? I have now told the world that I have this condition, and I'm a fucking nutcase, and no one's ever going to look at me the same, and I'm never going to get a job, and this is the end. Huge depression, right? We have that immediate depression. And you've probably all had that at some point as well. But he says he's standing out on the street corner waiting for a cab, and a guy just stops quickly and goes, hey, are you Howie Mandel? And he goes, yeah, I'm Howie Mandel, thinking that, he's going to get berated for something. And the guy just looks at him and he goes, hey, yeah, me too. Yeah, I've got OCD. I've got some mental issues, and, thanks a ton for saying something. People don't talk about that, and it really made me feel better. I mean, when I was listening to that on this podcast, I just, mind blown that there was a time when nobody actually talked about those things. We're lucky. Everyone who's listening to this, all one of you who's listening to this, and now two, because this is such an engaging episode, people will listen now. There's people out there, right? You don't necessarily have to go to a therapist, but people will listen. That's why we have friends. That's why we have family. And if the first person doesn't listen, if they laugh off or dismiss you, or like one person in my life just, don't believe in therapy and don't believe in talking, and if you just think about it hard enough, it'll fix itself. Other than that, people will listen. You skip on to the next person. If that doesn't work, the next person. But you just reach out and reach out and reach out. And quite fucking honestly, send me an email, right? The podcast isn't set up just for funny things and gags and what's more metal, OCD or germophobia. Wah, wah, wah. It's set up because I can share and Ashley can share all of the things that make us us, right? It's not called perfect image, it's called imperfect image, because none of us are at all fucking perfect. I'm not even perfect. I get reminded of that every day by myself and by others, and it's probably a good thing. I wanted to say here too that we all have stressors, right? None of us, like I just said, none of us are perfect. We all have these things that hit us. Personally, I think there's a depression spectrum or an OCD spectrum, or whatever you want to think of, just like we think of an autism spectrum, right? That's a big phrase, right? Ooh, this person's on the spectrum. And they mean it's a spectrum that we use for autism, anywhere from high functioning to very low functioning, whatever it might be. My personal opinion, and it's completely an opinion, there's no science base behind this, is that everybody's on this spectrum, right? And I'm speaking of this autism spectrum. I have these things that every once in a while I go, I bet you I fit on that spectrum somewhere. But I believe that same thing for depression and anxiety and stress. We all fit on a spectrum. There are people who are so insanely stressed, depressed, and anxious that they can't get through a day properly. And then there's some who are seemingly absolutely, honestly, they're absolutely perfect. We think that they're fucking perfect. But they're not, people. They have their own issues. Maybe we just don't notice them, right? And who knows, maybe that's where Robin Williams and Anthony Bourdain and Kate Spade were, is they just reached a breaking point. Potentially. It's potential. Maybe they did talk to people. I have no fucking idea. But something happened within them, chemistry or emotions or whatever it might be, that was just too much. We're all somewhere on that spectrum. So I wanted to just hit 2 points here, 2 questions for you, because I'm going to have my own questions for me later. Number 1, what are your issues? Just think about that for a while. You may be the type of person, such as myself, who thinks about that all the time. I try to, hit on what are my own issues? How can I make those better? Or can I make them better? Anything of that sort. But just think about it. What are your issues? And number 2, have you ever been to therapy or another similar avenue? And if you haven't, why not? Do you feel it's not necessary? Is it just not for you? Is it too expensive? Just think about those things. Maybe it's something that we could try, right? It's an idea. I had another point here that fits in even better at this point, which is, do you have back pain? Right? A lot of us have some sort of issue, especially up and down our spine. We get a little sore sometimes. Maybe it gets a little tired. Maybe, when we shoulder check in the car, you get a little pinch sometimes. A lot of people will just sign up for a massage, or they'll head to a chiropractor, whatever they'll do. It's a very immediate reaction, right? Or we'll just reach for a Aleve or an ibuprofen, an Advil, a Tylenol, whatever it is. We'll try to alleviate that pain through medication. Temporary, but it's still medication. Where we still have this stigma on mental health that, we can't take medication. Now, I will agree that there are other issues with that type of medication, but there's a big push that a lot of us don't want to take medication for mental health. But a lot of people don't want to go to a therapist or reach out to their friends or their family for some reason. We're more than happy, and I've had this many times, right? You're with people, you're at a party or something, your back hurts, and you say, hey, can you crack me? And they'll just give you a hug and bear squeeze you, and they'll pop your back, and it feels better. That's no problem. But to actually sign up for therapy, that's ridiculous. Sorry, I need a sip. Remember, that's Oak Heart. It's delicious. You should try it. That's my therapy some days. There's a quick thought that's not on my notes. Some days, you just come home and you just need to check out. You say, fuck work, fuck coworkers, fuck the weather, fuck the dog shitting on the floor or ripping up your couch banner. I thought he'd run in the room there. He ripped up our couch the other day. Instead of getting mad, I just went, you know what? I'm just gonna have a beer. Whatever. I can't fix the issue. I mean, I could get a new couch. I could get a new dog, I guess, but that's not happening. For some reason, I love the little shit. But I just grabbed a beer. Screw it. I'm just gonna calm down, check out. It's gonna be great. Oak Heart. So I wanted to talk a little bit more personally, and I'm going to check here on my notes. Sorry if you hear it in the microphone, but I'm going to talk a little bit about my own journey. So first one being my trips to therapists. I've been, I think, 3 different times. I think. So that's 3 different therapists for multiple sessions, each therapist. Right? So we'll get a little bit into maybe why I went, but more so, I should say not specifically the life events, but just the reasons that I find that I end up needing to go for a little checkup every once in a while. The one thing for me is lack of control. The worst feeling in my life is this idea of being backed into a corner where I have no control over the situation whatsoever. And I don't know if that makes me a control freak or what it is, but it would be like, well, you know what? It would actually be somewhat like the dog ripping up the couch. I can't do anything about that. If it's hours later and I get mad at him, it doesn't do anything. The dog doesn't realize why you're getting mad at him. But I don't know how to reupholster a couch. And I don't have enough money to just run out and buy a new couch. So that's a huge stressor for me, being backed into a corner. Previously in my life, it would be things like having someone break up with me. I can't necessarily change their mind and have them stay around. It's not even a great idea to change their mind and have them to stay around, because that's not going to lead to a healthy relationship necessarily, unless, your wife comes back to you and you get married and you live life happily ever after. Those things happen. But it doesn't happen very often. A lot of the time you break up with someone, and even if they come back or you convince them to come back, it just won't turn out well. You have no control over that. That's another person's decision to change their own life. It's not about your life, it's about their life. Okay, so this lack of control is something that keeps creeping up in my life. Rarely, but it does creep up, and it just fucking kills me. It's the worst feeling in the world. I can deal with a lot of stuff, but that one really, really gets me. The second one is this trying to please people. I want people to be happy. I think most people want people to be happy. But, as I just said about, say, maybe the girlfriend breaking up with the boyfriend, you can't just stay with that person because you think it'll make them happy. That doesn't work very well. We have to make ourselves happy. We have to work for ourselves, but it can be very hard when you're just naturally a people pleaser. So that's another huge stressor in my life. And I'm getting better at some of that stuff. Like this trying to please people. My parents were over a while ago, and I don't remember why, but we were looking at the pictures in my house. I do some of my own photography, and then Lauren and I have a few pictures or paintings from trips that we've been on, just little collections that we've got. And my dad looks at all these pictures and he goes, "You know what, you hang your pictures too high." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, you're a tall guy, you're 6'1" or 6'2", so your eye level's way up here. But the most people, their eye level's down here. You need to hang your pictures a little bit lower." And I didn't say it to him, but I've said to a lot of people lately, really what I wanted to do was just look at him and just go, "They're my fucking pictures. I'm hanging the fucking pictures for me, not for fucking everybody else. I like them. I don't even give a shit if everybody else likes them. They're my fucking pictures in my fucking house that I fucking paid for." But I didn't actually say that. But that's me internally just going, I don't care anymore. I'm fairly beyond pleasing everybody. I can't please everybody. And if somebody doesn't like how high my pictures are, fuck off. That's your problem. It's not my problem. The third thing that seems to creep up with me, or used to, I'm a lot better with this one too, is just flat out poor self-esteem. Right? If you do go and listen to Real Fitness for Real People, I speak a lot about, I'm not perfect. I don't have that Instagram model body, but that doesn't mean that I can't give fantastic fitness and health advice to other people, because it's not all just about the physical. Some of it is. I'm a big, strong guy, and I continue to make progress that way. But not all of it is. A lot of it is just about finding ways to increase your own self-esteem so that you don't have to meet that image. You've got your own image. May it be an imperfect image. Huh? You see how I did that? Yeah, that's called coming full circle. Yeah. So this poor self-esteem thing just creeps up with me. And it still happens, right? I use my job as an example a lot because I don't necessarily fit the mold of, like, when you say personal trainer, when you think personal trainer, we might get that Schwarzenegger thing in our mind, right? Or what's that, Jillian Michaels, or I think that was her name, the Biggest Loser chick. You just get a certain image in your mind. And I'm not shitting on my body whatsoever, which would be disgusting, by the way, and then I'd have to clean it up. But there's a picture that we have. And when I walk into the gym, and sometimes I'll walk by people, and they look at me, I swear every time my first thought is like, oh, the fat guy's a trainer. Like, it just sits with me. And it comes from being, relatively overweight when I was a kid, and it stuck with me. This self-esteem thing has always stuck with me. As I said, I'm better about it. I do have quite a bit of self-esteem now. And even if I don't some days, I seem to be able to put out an image that would seem that I have self-esteem, which actually helps in the end. I find it does. It's almost like it's that whole faking it till you make it thing. You just fake it till you make it, and then you actually end up kind of believing it at some point. It's an interesting phenomenon. A little bit more specific, the reasons that I've been to therapy in the past were just relationship issues, right? Girlfriend breaking up with me, or me wanting to break up with a girlfriend, whichever way it might have been. Sometimes it's hard to move on in life from those things, right? I remember one instance where I broke up with someone and I flat out knew that I had destroyed their world, right? I was, by that act of me being selfish, of me looking after my own life, I was going to completely ruin their life. I was going to hit their self-esteem. I might cause them to have to go to therapy. Things like that. And I'm not joking whatsoever. I'm not saying that, oh my God, breaking up with me must have been the hardest thing in the world. No, that's just the basis of relationships, right? I've been very close with a few people in my life. I'm currently very lucky that I'm insanely more close with my wife than I had ever been with anyone before. But that doesn't mean that at, 22 or something like that, 21, 25, whatever the numbers are, that you don't think that that is the be-all and end-all. That by breaking up with that person, you're going to destroy their life. And how do you move on with that with yourself? How do you make that okay with yourself? That's a huge one. That was a huge reason that I had to seek out professional help, was I couldn't come up with that answer. But the biggest thing that ever happened with me in therapy was the last lady I was with. The last lady I had seen in a few sessions, maybe 3 or 4 or something like that, was at the end of one of them, she kind of summarized the session, and then she looked at me and she just said, "You know what, Jordan? I don't know that you need to come back." She said, "You are what I perceive to be a very well-adjusted young man." And having that professional there with a notebook and getting that big fucking bold italic check mark like that just changed my world. Like, with one sentence, completely changed my world. It made me realize that I'm actually very good at compartmentalizing my life, right? So currently I have this life with Lauren and with our dogs and with my family and Lauren's family and our friends. But when I look back, I don't necessarily see this continuum of Jordan's life from birth until now, almost 32 and married and such. I see different segments of that life. And the way I put it is, that was another life. And that's me compartmentalizing it and going like, that was the Jordan of that time. This is the Jordan of this time. And in many ways, I think I've improved every step of the way, from early childhood to, later childhood when things started getting difficult, and then the teenage years where self-esteem is such a huge issue, into young adult where you have, responsibilities hit and relationships start and that sort of thing, and then relationships end. That's another segment of life. And then this is a new segment of life. And I'm sure one day I'm going to look back and I'm going to go, oh, compartmentalize again. Another lifetime ago, Lauren and I had started our marriage. Those sorts of things. I'm actually very, very good at that. And it seems to have been very beneficial for me. Now I can focus on making myself and others happy and not worrying so much about the past and not even the future. I focus a lot more on what's happening today. I do focus a lot with what's happening in the future, and I do think a lot about what happened in the past and how that's affected me and how that's made me who I am today. But then I can use who I am today to help make other people happy by doing things like talking to you through a microphone on a podcast, and you're listening in your car when you could be listening to nice music or something. Instead, you're listening to my nasally fucking voice, but hopefully you're laughing and I'm making you happy. And here's a notebook flip. Yeah, great microphone, picks up everything. next portion of this is I wanted to talk about things that have helped me through my life. The obvious one is family. My mom is an amazing woman, and she'll always listen. My dad is a kind of a stubborn dick sometimes. He was stubborn all the time, dick sometimes. But there's certain lessons from him that have really, really stuck with me. And then, me and my brother we're very different people, but there's aspects of his personality and who he is that I can adapt into myself, right? Even, his wife and now his 2 kids. And then on the flip side, we've got Lauren, my wife, and we've got her family. I mean, the support that I get and we get from that side of the family is amazing. They're a family that always gets together for dinners, and they do really talk to each other very openly when they do talk. And then there's the side that doesn't talk. That's different. But anyways, there's this family component, right? These are the people that maybe you don't choose, but you're kind of stuck with, and you have to figure out ways to rationalize and adapt and work along with those people, right? But then there's another side here, which is the friends, and these are the people we pick, right? So these are people like Ashley, and at the start was like Lauren. Obviously now she's family, but she's still by far my best friend in the world. And then one that we'll talk about, ooh, geez, now there's some tears. There we go. I was waiting for that. I got through like almost 32 minutes without any tears whatsoever. That's pretty good. There's people like Travis. We maybe have mentioned that name, or Trav, or whatever you will, but someone like that has been astronomically influential in my life. Even just him being gay, and me now having all this exposure to just another portion of humanity, right? Really forcing me to look at like what is acceptance, when it comes to other people. That's a big one. That I'd never really thought about that until right this second. That's been a huge factor in who I am and why I don't really care who the fuck you are. But that didn't come out right. I don't care who you are in terms of, where you came from and those sorts of things. I just care who you are when it comes to me, our relationship, our gettings along. If you're a great person, I'm going to love you. And if you're a piece of shit, I'm probably going to kick you to the curb. Anyways, friends, I just named a few. I could go on with all the people that I care about in my life, but, I'll focus on those 3. Lauren, Ashley, and Travis have been humongous in shaping my adult life. And helping me, but forcing me to change into a better person as well. I think that's been very, very important for me. Somewhat less sappy, other things that have really, really helped me along the journey, movies have been huge, and I'm going to kind of put that into just kind of the entertainment that I consume, right? So movies, Mary Poppins, obviously, as you'll find out. God, I can't wait to get to that show. I keep thinking about how exactly do I do this show where you can put on Mary Poppins and you can follow me through the journey of the movie and either understand why I love that thing so much or just wonder why the fuck anybody would care. But movies have been huge, right? And comic books, those types of things. Just those things as children that really stick with you. Music for me has been massive, right? I've tried to play my own music. I've tried to do all those sorts of things. But for me, it's consuming music. It's listening to, the rhythms and the notes and the words that these massively creative people and in a lot of cases really honest people have come up with. It's amazing the way that stuff can touch you. Sometimes sexually. And you'll all get this. You've heard enough that I'm a huge metalhead. I love metal. That's really sort of my genre, right? I love other things as well, but I really love metal. And I can just picture this one time. I'm going to go back to this again. I had broken up with a girl, and I left, and it was a tough conversation, and I got in my car, which is another love of mine. I don't know if that falls into friends or family or lovers, I'm not sure. But I got into my car, and I started driving, and I remember going down Stony Trail. It was fairly new, I think, and I was going east. And I put on an album by Asking Alexandria, a British metal band, and it just starts out with this fucking scream, like this massive scream, and then just keeps going and going and going, and it ebbs and flows, it's up and down, it's screaming and fucking yelling, and you can just hear the emotion in this guy, and then it's soft, and you get the subtleties of it, and then just like bam, back into it, and it just kicks your fucking ass. And I just drove, and I fucking screamed, and I cried, and you know what? I drove home, and I was good. It was like that rush of endorphins and letting it all out, and even if I wasn't talking to someone, I was getting along with someone who was going through so much anguish or even happiness or whatever it was that made him go nuts like that on a microphone. Fuck, it just hit me right in the chest, and like the tear ducts, those things too. But that's I can't think of a better way to explain why I love metal so much. Like, just the power of it and how much it can get out of me as well. It's not just about them, but it pulls that emotion out of me where, I'm a pretty emotive person, but I have to tell you, you don't always get the full extent of me. Like the other night, Lauren and I were making dinner, and actually I'm going to get to this later. There's a band called Ghost. A lot of you might have heard me talk about them. I probably talked about it on the podcast. I can't even remember. Maybe a couple episodes ago, I actually did a review. Couldn't tell you. I don't remember these things that well. But they've got this new album. It's called Prequel. And there's a song called Dance Macabre. It's very, 80s rock, catchy. I can't exactly phrase it the right way, but I was a little tipsy maybe a little wasted, I don't know, maybe that's what it was. But Lauren was standing and just stirring some veggies in a pan or something like that, and I'm just bouncing up and down beside her, just going nuts. I was having the best time, and she was probably questioning her life choices, but I've said to her a few times, finally at this point, 6, 7, 8 years, however long we've been together, she's starting to get the full Jordan, right? And I don't know if I hold back a lot. I really do. I don't give everything to everyone. A few people have seen it. Ashley actually used to live with Lauren and I, and she'd drive into work with me sometimes, right? She'd drive down, we park at the train station, at my work, she'd hop on the train station, and she'd go downtown. But on the way there, for some reason, I have all this energy in the morning, and I think it's just kind of like I'm still in a dream state, and I used to call it loud time. So a song would hit, something like Dashboard by Modest Mouse, and I just start screaming out the lyrics, going absolutely insane. And I think she hated it because, most people are still half asleep in the morning, and I just get this rush of energy and I have to scream. This happens so many days on the way home from work, and to work, and sometimes coming home from work, where I just gotta open the windows and just scream these songs out. It's loud time. It's a good time. But that's a real Jordan, and that, I don't know, that doesn't happen in front of too many people. Switch topics here. Things that have helped me: teaching and my career, right? When I was younger, this will come up again later, when I was younger, I wanted to be a teacher. And now I've become a teacher, not in a traditional school sense, but I've become a teacher in that, I show people how to use their bodies, and I show people how to heal their injuries. And I help people along their journey to being happier, just taking care of themselves better, those sorts of things. That's been massive for me, being allowed and being able and and having this skill set that I can teach people and I can do that for a career. I get paid to talk to people, right? I don't get paid to talk into this microphone, but I do get paid to talk to people at work, which is, come to think of it, actually surprising that I would want to come home and then talk even more. But hey, so be it. There's that last thing. The biggest thing that has helped me in my life with stress and anxiety, and I don't know if I'd call it depression, but maybe at some points, yeah, I'd probably agree with that. At some points, I would say I've gone through some depression. Talking openly. Just being able to actually say what's on my mind, whether people like it or not, whether it even makes sense, whether it's just this, fallacy that I make up in my own mind that, oh my God, I'm so depressed. Whatever it is, I have found people that I can talk openly to, whether that be friends or family, or in some cases screaming at a song, or even opening up to my clients. And lastly, opening up to a therapist. I've been able to talk openly with many people. I've now got a platform here on a podcast, usually with Ashley backing me, but sometimes on my own, where I can just speak. I don't even know if anyone's going to listen to this. If you're listening, thanks. If you're not, at least I'm getting my words out there. I'm getting this stuff off of my chest. I really, truly believe that you need to get things off your chest. You need to talk openly. Last part. Maybe not last part. We'll see how time goes. I'm going to do a little self-interview. I wrote down some questions. I had some quick thoughts, but I'm going to kind of go off the cuff here. So this is a self-interview. Interesting questions, just really the first things that came to mind to write down. Somewhat still on the topic, but hey, maybe we'll veer off topic. You never know, maybe I'll go on a tangent. Who knows? So, first question, what did you want to be when you grew up? I wanted to be a teacher, right? I wanted to be a fucking zookeeper and clean up gorilla shit or something like that. And at some point, I think I just realized that wasn't realistic, and I might have had to do way more schooling than I ever actually wanted to do. Plus, realistically, I just wanted to play with gorillas. But at some point, when someone told me that they could fucking kill me, I think I moved on to people. I want to teach people. I've always wanted to teach people. I remember being in, I think it was grade 7 gym class playing badminton, and I'm not going to remember the guy's name, but he was our teacher, and he was playing badminton with us, and I just thought, how fucking cool is that? He gets paid to play games, to play sports, and then teach kids how to play these sports and those sorts of things. That's all I wanted to do, was teach. I wanted to take my love for athletics and pass that on to another generation. Second question. I'm not even going to say second question because there's enough questions that I'll forget what question I'm on. So next question. The most influential people minus my immediate family. Oh, man. So I'm going to consider Lauren my immediate family, and then her whole side of the family is my immediate family, and obviously my immediate family as my immediate family. And I'm going to say Ashley and Travis would definitely be the two current ones. But I'm going to change my own question a little bit. No, I'm going to stick with that, just because I saw a later question. I think Ashley and Travis would definitely be the most two influential people on me. I've already sort of stated why, but they're just two phenomenal people. And if you don't know them, that's too bad. You're missing out. Next question. What immediately cheers you up? You know what? This is going to be shocking because I usually shit on the fitness industry. Lifting weights cheers me up. I had a shitty moment at work the other day with a coworker, and I felt like fucking crap, and I wanted to leave, honestly. I almost called off the rest of my day. I almost canceled everyone and just went home to take a nap or something. But I just said, no. One, I need to make money, so I should probably stick around. And then two, I'm just going to try to do something productive for myself. So I went and I lifted weights, and I was trying to push it a little bit and go a little bit heavier than normal and just kind of rip it out, like just really go for it. And it was amazing. I felt so much better after, and quite frankly, that instance with the coworker doesn't even matter anymore. If it comes up again, so be it. But at the time, completely gone. So I'm going to put lifting weights, but I'm also going to put just sort of athletics. When I was a kid, I used to just, when I was pissed off, I'd just go across the street over to the school and I just throw a ball against the wall or kick a ball for a little while and just moving and doing something. And I think maybe even just doing something I'm good at made me feel way better. Putting on a good song, one of those familiar ones. For me, it would be something like The Beautiful People by Marilyn Manson, or The Impression That I Get by the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, Superman by Goldfinger. Sometimes it's the catchy ones, sometimes the ones you can kind of bop along to or sing along to. Sometimes it's even some of the depressing ones. But something that just, it almost reminds you of a happier time. That stuff really cheers me up immediately. The two most important, the most important two events in your life, as a kid and as adult. So I'm going to take that as Jordan an hour ago wrote down, one time from a kid and one time from an adult. As an adult, that's easy. Marrying Lauren. Absolutely the most important day thus far in adult life. And I'm going to specify that because it's in adult life. It's not in my life. I'm picking up the Kleenex here. We'll see about this one. So when I was 10-ish, my grandpa was sick. He was in the hospital, and he was probably not going to make it. And then one night, my mom and I had gone over. And I don't know why it was just the two of us, but we had gone over, and things took a downward spiral. So I was there the moment that he passed away. He was my last grandparent, and he was just so huge in my life. Like, the biggest thing I can say about him, because it was long enough ago that I don't remember a ton, the biggest thing was he was the first person to give me a ball, right? Something that I could kick around and run with and that sort of thing. I remember it. It was a blue and a red and a white ball, and it had numbers and letters and stars on it. And we just kick it around in his living room. And I don't think I was supposed to, but he just let me do it. And it was like the start of me pursuing athletics and moving and really finding something that I was really, really fucking good at. So to see him pass away, that was the start of the worst time in my life. And that would have been, I think that was when I was 10 until I was, honestly, I think until Lauren and I started dating. And that's not to say that amazing things didn't happen in there, but that was the most negative time of my life because I hated everything and I was such an angry person. That's where listening to metal and stuff really came from, was this just built up anger in me, and I didn't know how to get it out. But then there was the happy point, the adult life, when you find this person that just really loves you for who you are. It doesn't matter if you're angry or if things haven't gone well. They just really see something in you. Lauren was even the first person. We were at soccer one day, and I was being a dick as usual. And we were driving home, and I said something about, I get carried away at soccer. And she looked at me and said, no, when you play soccer, you're a fucking asshole. And it was that, actually, that's probably the biggest moment for me changing, or really, really trying to change. Excuse me. It wasn't so much that any anger within me went away. It was just that now I had someone who finally just opened up and cared enough to just say, fuck off, stop that shit. Like, figure yourself out. Don't be a dick anymore. And I'll always be grateful to her for that one, because I've been so much happier lately. The last few years have been way better. And now I'm going to drink a bit more, because that seems to bring the tears away. Sorry. What would make life less stressful or hard / difficult? I think this is going to be a cliche answer, but right now, more money. As stupid as that is, I feel like I've got everything. I have the greatest life that anyone has ever had, but I hate living paycheck to paycheck. I really do hate it. And we're not the best with our money. What we do have, I still go out to the liquor store once, twice a week and spend too much money. And sometimes we go buy clothes and, I spend money on golf membership and stuff like that. We could save more, but it just seems like having a little bit more cash would help out. It'd just be, it would be one less thing to argue about when that does come up. And I don't know. I mean, you think it would change, but I don't know if life would change if I had more money. I don't know. That's my immediate answer, though, is I think just having a little bit more money would make life less stressful. This is going to be another one. The number one thing to look forward to going forward. That's a well-structured sentence there, people. That's what that is. Just so I don't get too caught up in this one, having kids. When I said, what do you want to be when you grew up? I took that as career. All I've ever wanted to be was a dad. That's it. And that's the last I'll say about that. The biggest regret in life, I think the biggest regret I have, honestly, is not opening up about these things earlier. Just not being able to talk about it. Maybe I didn't have anybody to talk to about it. I'm not sure, but I felt like maybe I was always scared to go to therapy or something. Honestly, that's one I don't think that my parents were overly good influences on. I think it was, church is stupid, therapy is stupid, and rap is stupid, which I can agree with 2 out of the 3 anyways. The words of advice to my younger self. I've thought about this one a few times. The best thing I could do to, say, 12, 13-year-old Jordan is I would go back in time and I would open up my phone. Now, he would probably shit himself that he's got the fucking internet. He's got the whole world in a phone. But anyways, I would open it up and I would show him my wedding pictures. And I'd say, this is who your wife is going to be. Don't worry about having people like you or, how cute those girls over there, or why am I not getting a cute girl, or whatever it is, or just on a separate note, like, oh God, life is so hard as a teenager. Dude, fuck off. Look at what you're gonna get in your life. Through all the struggles that you've gone through all the crap, through watching your fucking grandpa die, through just, days of anguish sometimes. This is what your life is gonna be. So just fucking deal with it, you fucking bitch. Just deal with it. Life gets better. And life doesn't get better through easy. Life gets better through struggle and learning from that. So suck it up, you whiny dick, and just fucking live. I'd also tell him to work a little bit harder. Like, don't leave all your projects to the last minute and stuff. That doesn't get you anywhere. The words of advice, this is the last question here. What words of advice would you have to your older self? So this is Jordan in his 70s or 80s or something like that. I think I would tell him to just keep trucking, right? Don't give in to being old. One thing I really can't stand hearing from my clients or, my parents or their friends or anybody who's, say, above 30 or something like that is that, like, oh, I'm getting old. Or, it's hard to get out of bed, or oh, I'm achy, or oh, I'm this. Like, God damn it, just fucking take care of yourselves. I have this theory. Now, this is professional Jordan talking. Your teen years are the years to make mistakes and to find yourself. Your 20s or so are the years to kind of experiment, We push some boundaries, those sorts of things. Your 30s, I think, are the time to get your fucking shit together. Work hard at work, right? Start taking care of your body. Stop eating so much shit. As I take a sip of Oakard here, you don't need to drink that much. If you like weed, limit it. You gotta have this balance in life. That's your 30s. Your late 30s moving into your 40s, work hard on your family, work hard on your career, those types of things, so that you can now set yourself up into your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 100s, that you're happy, you're healthy, you're strong. Dear God, please, go lift some weights. Do something that challenges your fucking muscles and your fucking bones. Otherwise, you're going to be screwed. Just screwed. Our body goes downhill, naturally, goes downhill. Do it now, right? Do it in your 30s. Do it in your 40s. It will not last. If you can make some peaks when you're in your 30s and 40s and even 50s, 60s, times change, 60s. 60s is the new 30s. When you make those peaks, remember that at some point your body will go downhill. But if you're starting from way up top, there's a lot further to go downhill. If you're starting from way down bottom because you've done shit all, you're not going to make that progress going back up. You may be able to maintain where you're at. That's professional Jordan. Okay, thank you. Thank you for listening to all of that. Whether you think it's bullshit or you really got something out of that. One, I don't really care. But two, just think about it. Whether you got something out of it, you didn't get something out of it, I hope that you can at least take a couple of seconds to think about it. Talk to someone. Please. Don't be another one of these cases where it seems like you're great on the outside and things are not great on the inside. I don't want to see that, especially from people that I care about. I really, really can't deal with that. I'm fragile, people. I'm a softie. You listen to me cry for half this fucking episode. But we're going to change quickly. I want to go into a quick review here, back to sort of the point of the podcast. It's not the point of the podcast. Talking is the point of the podcast. Ghost. I said I'm going to try to do a quick review here. I'm not going to take too long. A new album called Prequel. So Ghost is a Swedish band. It's really just the one guy. But he has this character that he plays. Now the character changes over time through different albums and such, but it's a character. It's a very satanic, anti-church sort of character. Whether you like that or not, it's an interesting idea. Trust me, it's a very interesting idea. Very creative, very artistic, very showy though. Very showy. And it shows in the music. You can hear this thought out. It's not just, I'm going to write a song because it's catchy. There's something deeper than that. My mom said, as I mentioned before, there's this song, Dance Macabre. It's very dancey. It's very catchy. Like, I dance every single time I hear it. But the point isn't catchy. There's a deeper something to it, right? There's a song on an earlier album that's called He Is. And it's amazing. It's like this ode to Satan. But it comes out so beautiful, so lovingly. And yet it's fucking about Satan. I find it hilarious. I'm not a Satanist, but I can appreciate someone saying, I'm not for this God person. I'm for whatever the opposite is. I get that. I can deal with that. So this newest album changes a little bit, as does the band every single time they put out an album, every time he puts out an album. But it's got aspects that I've never really heard. There's one called Rats, and the whole album seems to have this Rats theme, but this song is called Rats. And I swear it's just about politicians of today, right? You're listening to it in this sense of, demonic Satanist, but approachable, right? This isn't the kind of metal where they scream at you like I was talking about. This is the kind of metal it is actually very, very, very melodic. No screaming, all singing, beautiful instrumentals. And then you pop in this like fully politically charged song. It's a delight. I love it. And I think I might just leave my review at that. I urge you to go check it out. Prequel. Listen to the full album, start to finish. Listen to Rats and Dance Macabre a couple times. They're fun. I think they're the kind of thing that could be played on the radio. and people wouldn't have any idea that it was a Swedish, like, death metal Satanist band. They would have no clue. And since we're approaching the hour mark here, let's go into the last couple things, which would be the next couple of episodes. As I said, Ashley's away for a little bit, so it's going to be tough to do any recordings together. But what I'm hoping to do, I've put the feeler out there, we're going to have our first guest host. Okay, Travis is going to come in, my good friend Travis is going to come in, and I'm going to grill him with a couple of questions. He's going to be set up with a little bit of research that he's done, but I'm hoping to hit him with some questions that he hasn't even considered yet. So that should be a lot of fun. And then the episode, I would assume after that, if not maybe 2 after that, we're going camping. And we've had a request, finally a fucking request for this show, to do a live recording while camping. So I'm going to try to do a better setup. We should get better audio because cars are a terrible place to record audio, as we figured out. But we should have a good setup to get good sound quality while camping. And we can have a couple of guest stars. We can play a couple of games. If you're someone who's coming camping, maybe you can come up with a game. That would be fun. Instead of me coming up with all of the content or Ashley chipping in with content, maybe someone else can come up with an idea, which would be really exciting. So there you go. We started out fairly somber. Hopefully you laughed somewhere in there. I do like to try to make people laugh. Maybe you learned something. Maybe you can walk out with a different approach to the next while. And that different approach should be listening to Ghost. Thank you once again for listening. Email us. Check out... No, I didn't set up an Instagram for this yet, so don't worry about Instagram. Check out those other 2 podcasts. How to Deal with Stress, Anxiety, and Depression, as well as Real Fitness for Real People. Alright? Enjoy your day. Be happy. Talk to someone. Go listen to some metal. It's great. Bye, everybody.